Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Leadership Council, where we talk all things leadership. Today, I have a special guest. I got the president of Central Matrix, Sebastien van Heyningen. How you doing, my man?
I'm good, Alex. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Can't complain, can't complain. It's Friday,
Yeah.
When it's Friday, all good
Oh,
things
yeah.
happen. So, man, listen, we'll jump right into it, man. So, in your, I've been following you for a while on LinkedIn. I see you always posting tips and tricks, and always trying to help people. And that's what a true leader does. But something on your page kind of struck out to me.
Okay.
It said revenue operations is an executive function. Can you kind of explain that to me a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I think the best way to put it is there's two sides of the glass, so to
Okay.
speak. And on one side of the glass, the decisions are being made. And on the other side of the glass, we have to do the work based on those decisions. And I think, revenue operations for a very long time was on the do the work, we'll call it tactical side of the glass.
Okay.
Whatever the executives or the board say, you just hand that to your CRM guy and they have to build it. And so my argument is that the CRM guy needs to be in that room when you make your decision, because the technology that you're using to make that decision happen, that's in their hands. And
Absolutely.
so your decisions have to be filtered through the lens of the technology that you're using, or else you're going to fail, or you're not going to get as much out of your sales marketing revenue teams as you could. So really just knocking on the door and saying, hey, I know you're having these meetings, and you need to talk to me before you decide anything, basically.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so explain to the people a little bit what your company does for organizations.
Yeah, so we are outsourced revenue operations consultants. So we, like I said earlier, we're manager CRM and all of the attached technology. So your marketing, your sales engagement, your data. We'll even dip into the product in some cases. Think of us like an outsourced CRO and
Okay.
their team of people that pull through the work. And so that's really what we're doing, is helping people make a buyer journey for their clients that actually makes sense and brings people through the door and gives them a good experience, because it's all
Okay.
powered by technology.
Okay. So if I'm thinking about this correctly, you help people get a return on investment for the tech stack, right? The things that they're
Pretty much,
using,
yeah.
the best way to use it. Okay.
It's a great way to put it.
I can see how that can be helpful. So, us talking a little bit, the way you described yourself was interesting, right? You said that
Yeah.
you was a SDR turned consultant turned business owner.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of different experiences and wear a lot of different hats. Do you think having all this experience and worked in different avenues help you be a better leader?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, speaking of the other side of the glass discussion, like as an SDR, you are like all the way at the end of the glass, right? You
Absolutely.
have no decision-making power. You have no clout within the organization unless you have a huge pipeline sitting on top of you. And so, like, I've been that end user. I've been the Salesforce or the SDR that's raising their hand. That's like, our process doesn't make sense. Why are you making me put in this data in this way? That's not a good idea. We should be selling
Oh,
to
you're
this
breaking up.
industry instead of this industry. And so I've been on that end where folks weren't
There you
listening.
go.
And now as a consultant, like that's what I care about. Whatever we build, that person at the end of the line, you need to make sure that you're enabling them first, because they're your first point of feedback. They're the first point of contact for anybody that comes into the company. And like that SDR experience, I don't think I'd be where I am today if it wasn't for that.
Okay. Yeah, no, definitely. I've been there too. And sometimes when you're at SDR, it's like screaming at a wall, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, nothing you guys are doing are making sense. And then people in the
Yeah.
upline are just looking at you like you don't know what you're talking about. But essentially, because the SDRs are the end user, right, of the
Yeah.
processes in the software, you should be taking their feedback. So I can imagine, because you wear all these different hats, like when you're dealing with clients or dealing with people that are under you,
Yeah.
you're more open minded
I
to
try to be.
what they're you try to be, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely what they're coming to you with, man, because you've been there, you've done that. So how do you think your experience has shaped your leadership style?
Yeah, I think I've dealt with a lot of leaders that they showed me what not to do. Let's
Okay.
just say that. I think a lot of my learnings was looking up the management line and saying, like, if I was in charge, I think I'd be running this a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And so now I can actually bring that experience, and I know what not to do because I've seen it, and I've seen like how difficult and soul crushing it can be when you're an SDR and the leadership, doesn't understand how to enable your success. And so, all of our successes are linked. The SDR wins, so does the manager, so does the director, the CEO, the board. And so now I'm like really focused on how do we align all those goals together? Like in school, I studied economics. They talk about having your incentives aligned. And that's what I'm focused on most of all. It's like, how do we get sales, marketing, success, product, finance, everyone at all levels going towards the same exact goal in the same direction?
So how have you been able to do that? Because that's not always the easiest thing to do. Because
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with different departments, everybody has something that they're on their own trying to accomplish. So how do you
Yeah.
bring it all together to achieve one thing?
Yeah, I think the best way to put it is just spell it out. Be very explicit with what you're trying to get done. I think the simplest version of that is, the old marketing versus sales debate. Marketing is generating leads, sales
Hmm.
wants opportunities. Okay. So maybe we shouldn't be paying marketing for leads. Maybe we should be paying marketing based on how many opportunities they're generating. And that can be scary for marketing because, it's easier to generate leads than it is to generate opportunities. But if you spell out for them why that's important to the company as a whole and show them, yeah, you maybe got $5 a lead, we'll give you 500 per opportunity. Now you're starting to align those incentives. You're putting your money where your mouth is, and you're saying the activity and the results that I want, you're going to get paid for it. You're going to get recognition for. And the reason that we want is because it's important to this team, and this team. And so like you really just have to first listen to them. Like I think that's number one is like, act with empathy and try to understand, why their goals are important to them and what their understanding of the whole organization is. And then you can build a plan that makes not everybody optimally happy, but the key of compromise is we all give up a little bit to get to a better collective.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. And I think a lot of leaders fail short on internal selling, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you have to be able to sell your vision. I remember, I'm fortunate enough, the company I'm in now, we're a bigger company, but when I started, it was a really small company.
yeah,
So I had direct reach for the CEO, right? So I was like, hey, we need this software or this platform. And I had to learn quick that learning how to sell internally is just as important as it is externally when you're a leader.
100%.
Uh, what ways have you been able to do that, and what taught you to do that? Like, was it a lot of mistakes that you made in the past, or did it come
Yeah,
natural? Like, because I know I've made some mistakes. So
yeah.
tell me how you got to the point where you're good at it. What tips you would give other leaders about internal selling?
Yeah, yeah, I think it comes with experience. As much as I'm talking about how I love empathy and understand all these things, when I first started consulting, I was still kind of yelling at the reps, right? Put your data in the right way, use this extension, use this thing. And we got a few months into a couple engagements, and the behavior wasn't changing. The
Yep.
behavior that we were brought in to change wasn't changing. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, I'm giving you resources, and I'm giving, giving, giving. And then it was just as simple as someone on their sales team was like, I just don't like using Salesforce. And as soon as I heard that, it clicked. I was like, okay, well, we have an outreach extension. We can get you a VA because the pipeline that you have is really important to us. We can simplify things in Salesforce so that it's easier for you to input these things. And then at the end of the day, the behavior changed. So it literally was somebody raising their hand and being like, please listen to me. And I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. I need
Been
to
there,
listen
yeah.
to this person. Like, yeah. And then ever since then, I've gone in with that mindset of like everyone involved has to be at least relatively happy, or else we're gonna have a chink in the armor. We're gonna have a chain that is loose in the link. So it's like that's the way I think about it now.
Yeah, it is hard, man, because I do consulting too, and when you're trying to sell your vision to somebody, especially somebody that's used to doing something the way they've been doing it for a while, even though it's not
Yep.
working, it's hard to change them, and leading with empathy generally works, right? Like feeling what
Yeah.
they feel and not just speaking over them, but kind of like, hey, this is the reason why I'm asking you to do the things I'm asking you to do. That generally
Yeah.
works. Now, I think the other question I have for you, man. So you're the president of a growing company,
Yeah.
and one of the hardest things for any company is culture, building that culture. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what steps have you took to build the right culture for your company? Because I know the company that I'm working at, when we first started, it was kind of hard to kind of define what our culture really is.
Yeah.
So do you guys have that cemented, or is it still a work in progress over there?
Yeah, I think it's always a work in progress. Like I don't think you're ever done working on your culture. And, early on in our existence, we put together a Word document that said, this is what's important to us and our values. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, none of us have gone back and read that document
Not
since
at all.
it was made. But we just try to, and you're going to hear me say this a lot, it comes right back to empathy. And understanding that the goal is more important than the optics, right?
Yep.
Like when I was an SDR, even if I was hitting quota, you better not find me at the ping pong table. You better not find me standing around other people's desks talking to them, even if my performance was the highest in the company at that time. And so now that I'm running a company, someone tells me they're taking a Wednesday off, that's fine with me. You don't even have to tell me why. What you
Mm-hmm.
do have to do is get the job done in the time frame that you said it was going to get done. So if you said something's coming out on Friday, you could take Monday through Thursday off as long as that thing comes in on Friday and it is on point. And that's really what's most important. And not just the appearance of we're all working hard, we're all being productive. And so that's kind of the culture we've tried to build, is one that, the work fits into your life. It's not the other way around. I don't want you missing baby showers to deliver a project for me, because then you're not
Mm-hmm.
happy. And if you're not happy, you're not going to be fulfilled. And if you're not fulfilled, your work product is going to suffer. Like, I think it's good business to meet people where they're at and kind of give them room to be productive, like in their own space and in their own like way of working.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think another part of that is hiring the right people to fit that culture, because
Yeah,
not everyone's going to be able to do that. Because I kind of have the same leadership style as you. I don't care what you do as long as you get the job done. Like,
exactly.
you can go for a hike. I don't care. As long as what I ask
Yeah.
you to get done gets done, go ahead. But again, it's about hiring the right people, because people talk about it when you interview them. Oh, I'm a self-starter.
Yep.
But then, you give them this leeway, like do what you want. And then projects are coming late, or they're coming on time, and it's just not
Yeah.
up to the example that you want it to be. It's halfway done, no effort was put into it. So, what are some things that you're looking for when you're bringing people onto your team to kind of fit that culture?
That is a great question. And man, I don't think we've figured it out yet. We've had a lot of consultants churn. And just to look into our business model, we're mostly 1099 contractors right
Mm-hmm.
now. So we've had a lot of contractors churn just because they weren't acting professionally. And when I say professionally, I don't mean, the way they dress or the words, the jargon that they use on calls, but I mean work not being done on time and work not being done adequately. That's what I consider professional. And so we've had to have a lot of really tough conversations and take people off projects because they're representing our brand, right? And we're trying to prove our return on investment to our clients. And if we say we've switched 3 consultants out because they weren't working well, then that's on us. And so we've gotten better at just technically like analyzing people. You want to work on HubSpot, okay. If someone asks you to do lead scoring, how would you do that? And having them walk us through how they would run a project. And then judging them based on that, how close that is to the way that we've seen it successful. But other than that, man, like I'm not sure. Is it talking to former employers? I think that can be really hazy because, if they might say great words just to get them out of the company, or they might say bad words just because they don't like them personally or they have a bias. So I think it's really just, is this somebody that I vibe with personally? Like, are our conversations pleasant? Do they have a history of success, like in the thing that I'm trying to hire them for? And do they at least seem coachable? Because you won't know until they're actually in the role. But
Mhm.
have they demonstrated in their career that when they hit a roadblock or something that they didn't know how to do, or a mistake that they made, that they grew from it, and they, the next time they tried that same thing, they did better. But I ramble on a little bit because we're still figuring this out. Like, and we're not sure, of the right way to evaluate for culture yet. And hopefully, like, we do, because we're going to need to hire some new people
Me
soon.
too.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when dealing with consultants, right? Because
Yeah.
it seems like it's weird to me. It seems like when people are actually like full-time employees, they take more ownership of stuff, right? Because
Yes.
I think it's because they get that hourly, right? But I think what's worked in the past for me is dealing with people that's entrepreneurial in spirit,
Mm,
because
that's a good one.
they're used to being self starters, and they take
Yeah.
ownership, and they understand that as a 1099 you are a business owner, right?
Yeah.
You get what you put into it. So I think that that's one route. So I'm gonna talk to you about something that's not fun to talk about. Like, what mistakes have you made though? Like, when going after consultants, what
Yeah.
things have you done that you look back on? You're like, what was I thinking, right? Like, what are those
Yeah.
things that you've had to go through?
Yeah. We have put people on projects too fast. I think that's
Okay.
our biggest mistake early on is, a client comes in, and, it was the two of us, me and my co-founder, Kevin Lewis, when we started, and we were doing all the project work. And so if one project came in above our 40 to 50 hour limit, we
Hmm.
didn't have anybody for it. And so it became a sprint of like, going on Upwork, jumping into communities. Who knows Active Campaign? We need an Active Campaign
Yeah.
specialist today. Like, and then we've just started up. People have asked us for down payments, so pay ahead of time for hours, and then 10 hours later of not work done, they don't show up anymore. And so we pay people ahead of time, which has been a mistake. We've put people on projects too fast, which has been a mistake. But I think like our biggest error, and I think this is for every founder out there, is we are the bottlenecks to our own growth right now. The biggest thing holding us back is myself and my co-founder, because we want things done a certain way. We do things
Mm,
at our own pace, and we're not into that 80-hour work week lifestyle. At a certain point, we both know when to sit back and realize that, I cannot dedicate every inch and fiber of my being to this one thing for the sake of my sanity. But that being said, maybe if we did that, we have twice as much revenue as we had today, or we would have enough runway that we could hire someone else to come in. So I think that's really the big roadblock for us, is like, how do we get out of our own way and set things up in a way that we could bring in a new hire, and they don't have to, fitfo. They don't have to figure it the F out. They
yeah.
have like a set list of like, this is how we do things. This is what you're going to be doing for us. Be creative in that space, but you're not building the whole thing yourself. I think that's really our biggest mistake right now.
And I think for leaders, man, being able to self reflect is one of the hardest things to do.
Yeah.
Like, right? Because as a leader, from the outside looking in, you're supposed to have everything together. You're supposed to
Yeah.
know everything, right?
Yeah.
So, and sometimes you drink that Kool Aid, right? Like, I know
Yeah.
best. So, what was the point that you and your co founder kind of looked at each other and was just like, it's us? Like, what was that point?
Yeah, it was a few calls we had with, I don't want to say competitors,
Hmm.
because we can work with all these businesses. We can
Yeah.
take different pieces of the pie, but like Carabiner Group is one that's an aspirational brand for us. We talked to the folks over there, and they just opened their doors. They were like, "This is how we run our business," and we were like, "Holy shit." We have so much to learn and so much to do, and we're in our own way. And it was a combination of that. And, I just love talking to other consulting leaders,
Hmm.
because, we're all in the same space. None of us do everything. Every
No.
project we're on is an opportunity to bring another consultant in. And so just comparing business models and growth rates, it made us realize that we could be growing a lot faster. And then two, we were undercharging a lot early on
Yeah,
because we
that's a
were
problem.
both, two young black men, got fired from their last jobs, like trying to figure it out during a COVID world. We were like Upwork freelancers. We were charging half of what the market rate is for twice as much work
Word.
as what our competitors were doing. And so just being able to compare to other brands that we want to be like has been eye-opening. And, ever since then, we've settled on a business model. Our, run rate is way up. We're making a lot more money on every project, and we're still delivering that high level of value. And it was as simple as just changing a number on the contract. I'll
Yep.
never forget the first time we changed a 5 to a 10, and nobody flinched. Like
That's a
we
crazy
could
feeling, right?
have, yeah. Everyone's like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense. That's a fair price." And we're like, "Oh, okay." Like,
You're like, we could have been did this. So let me
yeah, we
ask you
could have
this.
doubled that.
Do you think, and this might sound like a weird question, do you think some of that undercharging had to do with imposter syndrome, right? Two black men
100%.
that just got fired from their last job, it
Yeah.
was part of you? Because I know when I first started consulting, it was like, why would they listen to me?
Yeah.
Part of it, like, right? So was some of that imposter syndrome?
100%. And that's followed me around my whole career. As an SDR, I was the one black face, yellow face in
Yellow
the
face.
room. But yeah, there wasn't anybody in the sales floor that was really like me. And when it came time to talk to the AE team, that natural SDR to AE transition, I turned it down because I looked at the room full of AEs and I was like, y'all vacation in the Hamptons. And I have never been to the
To the
Hamptons.
Hamptons, yeah.
Yeah, you have parents in investment banking. Like I would be lucky to have that level of privilege. And so I didn't see anybody like myself doing the things that I wanted to do. And so that has held me back tremendously. And then I think even when I started consulting, I was at a larger company called Scaled. There was a really quick turnaround on how I got started there. Within a week of interviewing, they had sent me on site to consult with a company. And I just remember I'm like up there with the PowerPoint, going through slides, looking at people that are older than me, more experienced than me, people who have been in business their whole lives. And I'm telling them things that to me is fairly basic, but to them help change their business. And so that feedback of being able to say like, this is how I would solve your problem and have somebody that you almost look up to and admire and respect say, that's a great idea. I haven't thought of it. Like, that's how I've kind of gotten over it, but it's still there. Like, it's still very much there.
So I think you had a gem there, right? And you might not have realized it, right? When you said you
Yeah.
was up there and you're saying things to you that are really basic, but
Yeah.
to them is groundbreaking, right? And I've had moments like that too, but I think a lot of people, especially a lot of people that look like us, overthink
Yeah.
things. They're
Yeah.
like, this is so simple. Yeah, it's simple to you,
Yeah.
right? It's simple to you. It's not simple to the people that are hiring you for this problem. So, leaders out there, you got to remember, you're a leader for a reason. You're in that position for a reason.
Yeah.
And I think, Sebastian, you can talk about it as well. Like how I know you never really got over it, right? Because I'm still not over it, right?
Yeah.
At all. How do you lead effectively with imposter syndrome? Like, how do you do that?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I the weight of not letting people down is heavier than the weight of imposter syndrome to me. So like, whereas before I was like, I could fail at any time because I'm not sure if I belong here. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I can't fail. I'm here. I'm working, I'm building a business. Like the proof is in the pudding. A year ago, 2 years ago, if I compare what I do every day to back then, miles ahead. And so it really has just been looking back at the journey. And then also now, like I can't afford to have imposter syndrome. Like I have to perform at a high level. I have to be the leader that I maybe a couple years ago didn't think I was capable of being. So it's a matter of need. And it's a matter of understanding how far I've come over this time.
So is it one of those things where it's like there's a saying, burn your boats, right? Like, don't give yourself any option but to succeed, right? Right. So
it is a little bit of that.
Yeah, right. Burn your boats. Like, I have no option but to succeed. So
I'm
do you
not
think,
turning around.
right? Exactly. If I burn my boats, I don't got an escape plan. So is that, you think that's a good bit of advice, like, for other leaders? Like, if you feel yourself feeling like doubtful, just give yourself no other choice. Like, I have to. It doesn't even have to be an actual thing where you cut off all the options. It could be a mental thing. Like, you tell yourself, I have no choice but to succeed. Because I know for me, that's kind of the way I went about it. Because, if you don't do it that way, then you give yourself excuses, right? You give yourself excuses and you never get anything done. All right. So, the question I like to ask everybody is, what were you looking for in a leader when you was coming up that you didn't get? Like, what was those things that you were looking for in a leader, right, and that you didn't get?
I think number one is just trust.
Okay.
Like, trust that I am trying to get this job done just as much as you are. I think it's really easy in the SDR world to lose that trust because our activity is on a big TV that everyone can see. Our performance is ranked and graded against every other rep at all times. And so, if you slip for a day, someone could be knocking on your door, slacking you, pinging you, and be like, you had 100 calls yesterday. You had 70 today. What's going on? Like, that level of micromanagement never gelled well with me. Because we both know I'm trying to hit, for example, 15 opportunities every month.
Mm-hmm.
We both know that. And we have known that the entire time I've been a salesperson. So, like, why are you now telling me about a call change from a Monday to a Tuesday, which I already have a good reason for? But if you trusted me, we wouldn't even have this conversation. You would just, we would talk at the end of the month when I hit quota, and you would say, how'd you do that with so much less calls than everyone else? And so I think that the trust was really lacking for me. And I'm not sure where that came from. I did see coworkers that had that trust that came from different backgrounds than I did, both professionally and personally. People who worked at an investment bank before being an SDR, they're going to come in with a little bit more of that trust than me, who was just straight out of college. I had interned before. And so, I think that's the number one thing I needed from a leader. And the second is motivation through support. I had one leader, and I quit this job immediately after he told me this. I had a leader tell me that he didn't see fire from me anymore. And that might motivate some people, like, oh, I'm going to prove him wrong. But for me, that instantly made me think, this person's not invested in my success.
Yep.
He's placing a bet on whether or not I'll fail, and he's betting on the fail. And he's hoping he's proven wrong. I'm like, no, I want to prove you right. Believe in me. Tell me I'm capable of these things, smash that imposter syndrome with me, and then watch as I grow. And I think that is the way you lead, not through like, oh, you suck, prove me wrong, the football coach version of this, but actually like, I'm here with you. I understand what you need. Here's all the tools that you need, and I'm here to support you. I believe you can do this. I'd rather prove someone right than prove someone wrong.
Absolutely. And I think with that, right, because there's two types of leaders. There's ones that lead through fear and ones that lead through respect. And I think with you, just by talking for these few minutes, you're the type of leader that would lead through respect versus fear. Because in my experience, fear doesn't work. That's what it sounded like that leader was trying to do. It was through fear. So I'm pretty sure when you're talking to your people, it's more of the respect avenue, right? Versus the fear, right? Because the fear doesn't really do. So what values do you use in leadership? Like, if you had to pick 4 values, what values are important to you in being a leader? It could be 3 if you don't have 4, but
I mean, empathy comes to mind first.
Empathy, that's a big one.
I'd say vision. Like, people have to understand what's coming next. And
Yep.
like as a leader, it's your job to put that path in front of them, or else somebody else will put a better path in front of them, and you can't blame them from going down that path. So you have to show them like, here's where we're going and how you're a part of it. So empathy, vision, and then trust for that last one. Trust that you made the right decision by bringing these people in, and that they're going to prove you right. And then I say a bonus one. I can't think of the right word for it, but just like calm, I guess. I think leaders can get so tied up in their goals and this stakeholder, and just be able to take a step back, breathe. You're in this for a reason. And yeah, I guess it's confidence. You could call it confidence.
Confidence, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that's important. Confidence, because your team's going to feed off your energy. So
Yep.
if you're sporadic and like, oh my God, they're going to do this. But I want to go back to vision, right? Vision
Yeah.
is important. One of the things I always say, you have to be able to plan for today and tomorrow at the same time,
Yep.
right? So, what tips would you give people, to kind of clarify their vision for themselves and their team?
Yeah, I would say you're selling the vision, first of all. Like, that's the first advice I would have, is like, remember that you are pitching your vision to everyone that can listen. Your investors, your board, your sales team, your new hires, the general market. Like, remember that this has to be buttoned up. You have to, it can't be like, oh, maybe we'll do this and we'll probably figure this out later. Like, it has to be a clear and actionable vision. So first things first, make it clear, make it sellable. And then after that, I would say be open and flexible to feedback, because your strict version of your vision might not fit in with everybody else's ideas. And so be open to tinkering with your vision a little bit, so that you can come out the other end with something that everyone is accepting and everyone is moving forward on. And that's so important in RevOps, because we're linking marketing and sales and product and client success and finance, and just we're trying to get them all in the same room. And so you can't work with one vision. You're really just putting together multiple visions and then trying to put that under maybe what that company goal is, or maybe what your industry is trying to do. And then just stick with it. Like, once you have something that works, like, be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Be consistent with it. Yes, be flexible with the vision, but don't change it every day. And understand that, like, you're going for this North Star, this true goal. And you might change the way you get there along the way with everybody else's input, but you still have that number one, like, ideal version of this in mind.
I'm glad you clarified that, though, because
Yeah.
people mistake flexibility with changing, right?
Yeah.
Because your vision is like the goal you're trying to get to. Flexibility is the way you get there, right?
Yeah,
Like, you can change the path to there, but it's still there. And I think leaders get that confused sometimes, right? It's not being flexible if you're changing the goal.
Yeah.
Every month, every 3 weeks. Like, you've probably worked for companies that their sales goal literally changes every single month. It's just like, there's no way for their team to really get a grasp of anything, right? So, no, I'm glad you clarified that. So the other one, empathy.
Yeah.
Right? So it is really hard for a lot of leaders to be empathetic and still hold people accountable. Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard, and I know sometimes I still struggle with it. And I know at the beginning of me becoming a leader, it was really hard for me.
Yeah.
How have you been able to overcome that?
I'm not sure if I have yet, I think that's another one that you're just always working on it, like, always. I don't think there's a set methodology or way of thinking about it that I've seen is best. It's just a push and pull every day. I think a good example of this is that example I gave earlier with the consultant. We needed an active campaign consultant in a week. We found someone. It was a Black woman. We were excited to give another opportunity to a Black person in sales. She asked for payment up front. I was like, okay, maybe she got burned before. I'll give her the payment up front. Then she started following up less and less. then all of a sudden she disappeared off the face of the earth pretty much. And so I think the business owner in me was like, I'm coming for that check, I'm putting her to collections, I'm chasing
Yeah.
her down. But the empathetic person in me was like, she's not a good fit, cut your losses. Like, you don't have to be vindictive about it. This is business. Like, you lost that deal, basically,
Yeah, yeah,
and like understand that,
took
like,
that
yes,
out.
something happened, but I don't have to be upset, emotional about it. Like, and in the future, we're not paying a down payment for consulting services, and like, yes, we'll be empathetic to those that have been screwed over by consulting agencies in the past, and we'll work something out in the middle. But we had to change a policy because we came too far on the empathetic side and not far enough on the holding people accountable side. And then aside from that, I would say document it all, everything. If something goes wrong on a Monday, write an email saying, I didn't like the way this went. This is why, and this is how I'd like you to do it differently. If the same thing happens on a Wednesday, do the same thing again. And if it happens again on a Friday, now you have 3 documented cases where something was asked for, it wasn't done on time, it wasn't done right. Going back to the conversation of professionalism, that's, I think, when the accountability comes in. It's like, we're not getting the professional outcomes out of you that we are compensating you for. This is a business relationship. The same way our clients can fire us if we don't get the job done, we have the leverage to fire you if you don't get the job done. And of course, be understanding. Like, someone misses a project because their mother died, like, give them that space. Like, don't put the pressure on them. But if they're giving excuses, you don't really know where they're at, and they're missing the target over and over again, I think you're totally justified in making that move.
Yeah, it's hard for a lot of leaders to really, and I love your answers, right? Because it's practical, right? And I think a lot of leaders, because as a leader, you get pressure from above.
Yeah.
Why isn't this happening? Right?
Yeah.
It's not happening fast enough.
Yeah.
So then you feel pressure, and I think what a lot of leaders do is they allow that pressure to reflect how they talk to their team, and how they interact with their team, and how they lead their team. Right? They allow that negative energy to flow where we're kind of supposed to be the filter. Right? It's like that negative energy, we got to spin it in a way that is understanding. And one of the things that Nikki Ivy told me, you probably know Nikki. Right? Nikki's
Love
amazing.
Nikki. Yeah.
She said, you can show your empathy through accountability, right? Because if there's a rep, especially a sales rep, that is not doing what they're supposed to do, the way you show empathy for this situation is holding them accountable so they reach their potential. And when she said that, I was like, that makes sense, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's interesting.
You want them to achieve. Like, you really care about their success, right? So being empathetic to them is making them achieve what they can achieve. Yeah. And when she said that, I was like, oh, okay. It makes sense now.
Yeah, I like that.
Right? Because it's like, we're taught, holding people accountable is like a bad, scary thing. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be. If you have that rep that has the potential to be the number one SDR in the company, and they're not, right? Show them how. Be that leader that has empathy and understanding. Will push them to be great. And that's how you show true empathy for their situation. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Well, that's why Nikki's Nikki, right?
For sure.
So another question that I had from you was, did your leadership start with a title, or did it come before that? Right. So what I mean is, when you was an SDR, was you showing glimmers of leadership then? Like, was you trying to help other SDRs and help people, or did your sense of leadership come with the title?
I think the recognition of my leadership came with a title.
Okay.
But like you said, I was very much a player coach when I was an SDR. So I was interviewing new SDRs. I had a big part of onboarding. I co-authored the first playbook that we ever used at my first job. And at a certain point, they gave me direct reports. And I wasn't being compensated as a manager, but I would have been fired if they didn't improve their performance. So, I got taken advantage of early on because I wanted all that. I was like, let me manage the CRM. let me do this report. Let me work on this content with you. Because I was just so interested in how we could all come from different walks of life, be different people, and we're still all selling the same thing in the same process. And so I wanted to make sure that all of us were always doing the best version of sales for this company. And so that's kind of how I started to dip into sales management, operations, enablement, because, for me, humble brag, I was always hitting quota. And so I had some extra time, and I wanted I wanted to make sure everyone else could too. I would hand off the little softballs to the new hires, like, oh, these two I talked to, 3 months ago. They said they come back around. I'm gonna transfer ownership to you because I want you to succeed. So it was just a part of me this whole time. I think this is. I think Nikki actually mentioned this to me too, which is like, as we climb, we're also raising. We're pulling people up with us as we're climbing, and I just take that mindset wherever I go.
That's awesome, man. And I could see that in you, because what I notice about you too, still to this day, is like you're always on LinkedIn giving tips, tricks. Like you're trying to help people from afar. And a lot of people that get into leadership positions, they stop doing that. Like they're so focused on achieving what they got to achieve that they don't reach back. So another question that's in that same vein: why is that important to you to continue to do that? Like, why do you still reach out? Because I seen on your profile, you basically said, and I'm summarizing, that you're really reachable, and even if it's not for business or no business could be had, just to talk, right? Like, why is that important, especially with somebody that's like a co-founder or president, to be that reachable for everyone? Why is that important for you?
Yeah. Oh, well, for one, I believe it always comes back around. I think the value you put out, it might not be a deal tomorrow, but something's going to come back around. And like the long tail marketing version of that answer is like, every SDR I put in a job today is going to be a manager, a business owner, or a director in a few years. And, those are the partners that I'm going to be working with in a few years. So it's in my best interest to help them and give them a good experience. But aside from that, like, I wouldn't be where I am today without mentorship. Like my very first sales manager, Chris Flores, we're still very close. He sent us one of our first deals when we started consulting. And so I needed that person in the room that valued my success so much that they would like put their effort into helping me grow. And then separately, like when we started consulting, and you might put this on, the summer of Black Lives Matter, but everybody was open to talking to us. Every sales leader, RevOps leader, Richard Harris, Scott Leaf, Jake Dunlap, even our old boss, we would just come to them and be like, hey, we're two Black founders. We want to know how to do this better. And they would talk to us and share their time with us. We wouldn't pay them for this, but they would just say, like, I'm going to get on the phone and help you out. And it was so valuable to me that I feel like it's only right for me to do the same now that I'm in this leadership position.
That's awesome, bro. And I commend you for it, because I go on LinkedIn, I see, I'm like, oh, okay, I always learn something from you. So as
I appreciate it.
For another,
thank you.
I definitely appreciate that. Trust me, giving out free game. My last question. I don't want to hold you too long. What are some tips you would give to new up and coming leaders or people that are looking to get into leadership?
Yeah, I would say join every community you can. Rev Genius, RevOps Co-op, Sales for the Culture, like that's how we learn, is through shared experience. I think that's the reason human beings are so technologically, emotionally, socially, etc., advanced beyond animals, because you can learn something here and you can share it with somebody who's going to build on it. They're going to share it with somebody who's going to build on it. And then by the time it comes back to you, it's its whole new own idea, methodology, whatever. So you find your tribe of people that are in the world that you're trying to get into, and just stick yourselves to them. Learn from them as much as possible. And then understand that through those steps are where your opportunities are going to come from. When that person that you've been quizzing about leadership has a leadership position open up, they already know you. they understand how dedicated you are to this, they're going to more likely to give you a shot than a cold application off the street. So find that community, that tribe, that niche, and just build yourself within that place, and leadership will follow. That it'll come. That's the next step after those tactics.
Sebastian, that was amazing. Thank you for sitting down and chatting with me, my man. I hope you enjoy your weekend. I hope you have an amazing week. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
No problem.